Good evening, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us. Welcome to Game Masters, our first episode here, where we're going to have an opportunity to talk to a bunch of different people that work in the TTRPG industry, either as independent creators, people that work in the industry for some of the big players, and people that want to just get off on their own and do their own thing. So we're going to do that the next few weeks, sessions, however we want to describe this. I don't know. I'm your host. I'm Randall. Hi, I'm Randall Hampton. If you guys don't know me, I am the author and illustrator of the Little Game Master series of children's books and creator of Little Game Masters, a TTRPG built for kids age 5 and up. That's what I do, and we're going to get into that a whole lot later. Tonight, I am super, super, super lucky to be able to hang out with some amazing people. These are people that I've gotten to know just by working in the TTRPG industry and by making and creating and doing art for different things. And so I've stumbled my way into these people's lives, and they haven't kicked me out yet. So it's great. I'm going to go around the horn here a little bit. I'm going to... Oh no!
I was
Okay, well,
trying to be subtle.
that's fine. It's fine. We'll fix it. I'm gonna go around the horn and I'm gonna point at you, and then you're gonna give your tell us a little bit about yourselves. So we're gonna start right here to my right, left, whoever. Mr. Connor Napier.
Oh, hey. I was like, sure, like how that was gonna land. I'm like trying to pull up the Twitch, like, which? Oh, it's me. Okay. Hi, I'm Connor. One of the
Fixed.
folks over at Gemhammer and Sons. We make more better game stuff, as we say. We're a third-party creator for D&D 5th Edition. Primarily, we also make some like D20 agnostic is how I choose to describe it, and really a lot of those products were born out of, hey, 3.5 is still existing, and 5th edition hadn't quite happened yet. So we're kind of in the D&D space. Yeah, and that's me. I'm him.
All right.
I,
Awesome.
I didn't prepare I'm going to talk about myself.
Oh, you're gonna talk a lot about yourself. Just get used to that. Right down below me, then we're gonna go down to the next person on our list, Miss Lauren Urban.
Oh, hi, that's me. I'm Lauren Urban. I'm the content manager over at Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms, who are a licensee of Wizards of the Coast for Dungeons and Dragons. I basically do, if you see content about our game that isn't actually our game, I have a hand in that somewhere. I also do a lot of other TTRPG stuff all around the internet, mostly streaming stuff as a DM or a player. I've got a couple third-party things out there that you can purchase. I've done some work with Mr. Randall Hampton on a certain book that is behind me that I love dearly. And when I'm not doing all of that, I'm a professional classical musician on oboe and English horn. Please hire me.
Okay, we're all just gonna actually just sit and just bask and just kind of enjoy the presence that is Oboe Lauren. Okay, and then down to the diagonal kitty corner from me, Mr. Chris Bennett.
What's up, guys? Everybody knows me as Bennett. It's actually really funny. Pretty much everybody that I work with has never heard my first name. And that was introduced about 7 years ago. Where do I work? I work for Wormwood Gaming. I'm a designer and prototyper there. I am the reason the Coffin Vault exists. And I love every minute of everything that I do. And working for Wormwood Gaming has brought me into the community at large. It's introduced me to D&D. It's introduced me to Randall. And here we are. Outside of work, I'm a novice cosplayer, artist, nerd, gamer, all the things. Unfortunately, I haven't really put myself out there, so this is just kind of one more thing to add to my repertoire. And I love every second of it. Randall and I have kind of hung out and did some random art streams here and there just to hang out and chill and just be two guys on the computer. And you know, I get to now sit here with some pretty cool people and talk about some really interesting things for the community that I have come to love a super lot. So thank you for having me, Randall.
Absolutely. That's actually one thing that I want to kick off with is TTRPG community. Like, it's had its shade here and there, but in general, this has been one of the most fun, likable, like embracing like communities that I think I've ever been a part of. The fact that I literally like stumbled my way into so many circles of new friends and groups and stuff by literally doing a little doodle and like sending it to someone on Twitter one day. I was like working on one of my other projects when I had a real job doing things, and then I was like just sitting here working at home, and I saw that, and I was like, oh well, I'll just draw a little picture, whatever, and I sent it off. It was a picture with Kelly Butler and Dr. B and Eugene and V, and that just blew up, and then I got to meet all these different people. Like that got me into the people over at Geeks Like Us, and that's how I met Connor, and then I started watching Worm Life, and that's how I met Bennett, and I mean, Lauren, I think I literally just like threw a message out to you randomly one day, just saying hi, and
Maybe.
and it might have been it, and you were absolutely gracious and completely welcoming, and being like, hi, nice to meet you. What are you about? And and that's what this has become. And so I love this community and that's one of the reasons. It's just so unbelievably welcoming and so just arms wide. Like everyone's welcome. Let's hang out. Let's have a good time. Come join our table.
I mean, that's it, right? It's TTRPGs are a collaborative game. I
Yeah.
mean, there are some solo ones out there, but the vast majority of the ones, especially the ones we're probably going to talk about today, require more than one person. And so I spent quite a bit of time in the video game world, and not just now as my job, but like in the shooters and things that are not necessarily as friendly. And most of the time that's just because of the nature of the game, right? It breeds competition with each other, and so it's a little harder to meet people there because those are the people you're fighting against. But in
Sure.
TTRPGs, everybody that you meet is a potential person to sit at your table and have fun with.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I dig that.
I want to do a couple of things real quick. So what we're going to do with this show is we're going to kind of break it up into sections. Like the first little part, I'm going to have different guests on. Some of you guys are probably going to come back and hang out with other people and stuff like that. So we might do a little bit of getting to know you, just kind of rapid fire. I'm going to ask you a couple questions. We just want to see your responses just to kind of gauge like how where are we meshing? What's going on here? Like how are we thinking about things? Are we on the same page on
This is
something?
session zero
I mean,
for a.
This
for
might be
a
a session
interview?
zero for. This is
Personally,
session
Randall,
zero
I feel
for
like
our
you and
talk
I
show.
aren't meshing. I feel
At
like I
all.
would never want to work on a long-term project with you.
No, never.
I don't. I definitely
Never
wouldn't want to
again.
look at one of your books. I don't.
Yeah. To those of you that didn't read the credits page, Connor was unlucky enough to have to do the layout for Little Game Masters. and
Thank you for that. I appreciate that being one of the
Oh.
people. Yeah. Ooh.
yeah.
Oh no, your
It's-
stuff was fine. I enjoyed
Thank
it.
you for saying that on the air. I appreciate it. Also, I love if
Not
we're
to
going to
throw
talk
shade
about.
at the other people who wrote for that, I would like to throw
Hey,
out that I
they're
did
gonna
as
be-
well, and I was just as bad, if not worse.
They're gonna be guests later on. Come on. All right,
But
so
all
we're
the
gonna.
post-it notes on the inside from the editor that was like, "Oh my."
Oh yeah, I had two different editors, and one of them looked back and just kind of shook their head and was like, probably shouldn't have printed that first printing first.
So let's have a conversation
Let's
about an
have-
Oxford comma. Oh no.
Oh, jeez.
See these 9 run-on sentences that you think is a chapter? Let's stop that.
All right, so a couple of things that we're moving. No, we got to go. Everyone in the chat, Mass Elephant, Mega Bro, hey everyone, thanks so much for being here. We appreciate it. Wandering Shrink's here.
Hooray!
Yay! Good to see you. I haven't seen her in so long. Okay, so getting to know you. A couple quick, quick fire, rapid fire answers. We're just gonna go around the horn kind of thing. Start with me, Connor, Bennett, Lauren, and then back to me, and we'll just go blah blah blah. Okay. Question number 1: werewolf or vampire? Vampire.
Werewolf.
Yeah, werewolf.
Werewolf.
I have to say
Really?
werewolf.
Yep.
I want to be a puppy. Come on.
I'm
Okay.
like half Scottish, and Scottish are like 50% werewolf by volume. So I'm basically, I'm also half werewolf. So I'm like 75% werewolf. It comes down to-
I like how the percentage is increasing as you talk.
But it's
Eventually
also
you're
by
getting
volume,
99%.
like alcohol, because again,
Fantastic.
Scottish. So it's it
Like
all
alcohol.
evens out. It makes a lot of sense.
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
All right. What was your first intro into RPGs, be it tabletop or video game? You know, what was the first thing that really kind of you played or tried, and you're like, I like this, I want to do more of it. And for me, it was the original Final Fantasy. No, actually, no, I take that back. I did play second edition back in like 1987 or something like that. And I like with my aunt and uncle, and we played like a quick little, just like no paper and pencil, nothing like that. We were just playing the game and having fun with it. But second edition, and I've been playing since. Connor.
So it's gonna be Final Fantasy 3. No, sorry, our Final Fantasy 3,
Six.
actual Final Fantasy 6 on the
Six.
Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
Was my first RPG I ever played at a friend's house. The one that I really settled into is I feel like some people could really go, okay, but it's Pokemon. But caveat to that, like, I grew up in a house where my dad was super into D&D, and I had no idea that was a thing as a kid.
Oh.
Like I knew who R. Salvatore was and what Dragonlance was before I knew what D&D was. I knew Monty Cook by the fact that my dad had a million of his paperbacks. Like, if I moved my head slightly, you could see a lot of them there.
Nice.
But had no idea it was related to D&D until I was much older and like found out that he got kicked out of school for skipping class to go play D&D and stuff like that. And so was super
That's
familiar
metal.
with the content,
Love it.
but didn't know anything about it
Sure.
until I was a little older.
Bennett.
My first RPG was in video games, and it was Legend of Zelda: Ballad of the Windfish.
Okay.
And then fast forward to 4 years ago when I started playing 5th edition. Up until then, prior to that, my only TTRPG experience was a homebrew setting at a table in a friend's house that I had moved into. And I hadn't been introduced to the friend group. I was coming out of a bad living situation, and they were like, hey, you live here, we do this thing, why don't you come down and you can just hang out and and just hear what's going on and just see what this is kind of all about. You're super creative, you play video games with us, like this feels like this might be your thing, but no pressure. So I sat in a session, and I'm like, so I have an idea for a character to help your story fill in some holes. So here's a couple of things that I noticed, and myself and the DM at the time started talking about stuff. Blew their mind because I loved writing and I liked storytelling and all this other stuff. And boom, I was introduced. A person that I met in that, Big Tony. If you have seen Worm Life or anything like that, you've seen Big Tony. One of my best friends, a player in my campaign that I currently run. But he, for Christmas, bought me the Hydra 47 variant starter set with all of his artwork on the covers and everything, and I fell in love with it. And he's like, if you like that, this is gonna be your thing. Here you go. And here we are 4 years later. Man, I love it. And that's just kind of been my journey there.
All right, Lauren.
That is a cool friend group to have that kind of, hey, just come and sit and enjoy, have some snacks, no pressure. Like, that's kind of an amazing way to get somebody into the game, or even just hanging out. I'm envious. My first TTRPG or role-playing experience is it's either Final Fantasy 1 on the NES, or my parents did get me the red box.
Ooh.
From first edition, because I'm an indoor child, I still am, and they were hoping I could find some friends to play with. But it was also the early 80s, and the satanic panic was real strong. And so those that were not interested in TTRPGs were also not interested in hanging out with somebody who was going to summon the devil. So it's probably Final Fantasy.
I mean, at that age, you just don't have the constitution to properly summon a devil. It's not likely.
No, I was hoping for an imp, and really all
Right?
I got was some really cool dice that I colored in all the numbers with crayons, and that's about it.
Very cool. Yeah. Other than that second edition foray that I had Final Fantasy One was probably the first video game that I played on the NES, and yeah, that game was way harder than these pixel remasters, man. Let me tell you, these kids today got it easy.
The remasters are much better.
They're great.
They've never run into the war mech, I'll tell you that.
No, absolutely not. I've been trying to. I tried to for hours and I couldn't get it.
I flew through the remaster on iPhone and got to the end. Like it had all the extra dungeons and stuff in it, and I flew through those two, and I'm like, this is all wrong. It's all wrong. No, I should be spending much longer than this. Or I should have to do hours of grinding to be doing anything constructive in here. No, it's fine. Just...
All right. Real quick, if you've played an earlier version, and I'm gonna stick to D&D right now because that's just that was always my main for years. I did play some homebrew stuff and I played some Pathfinder, but I'm gonna stick with D&D just because that's the biggest thing for our audience as well. If you played second edition, 3.5, fourth edition, fifth edition, looking back, fondest memories. Which game would you prefer to play if you had a table of like-minded people? And I'd kind of go back to 3.5. I love 5e, but I think I like 3.5 was one of the ones where I really sunk my teeth in, and that's what really like got me going. And I really just got really, as I was older, got the juices flowing for the game. So I'm like, if I could get a table of people playing 3.5, I think that'd be fun.
I'm gonna have to agree 100%.
Yeah?
Because I make stuff for 5e, and what I love about 5e is how you can just jump into it. Like someone that's never played before, you can like throw them in, and like you can even like just start playing. I did this with some kids like after they did their like standardized testing. Like they were done like 2 hours early, and this kid who's like never played before, he like plays a lot of basketball. He's like, I don't know what I'm doing. It's like, don't worry about it. We're just gonna play pretend, and I'm gonna tell you what dice to roll when you need to do it. You tell me what you want to do, and we'll figure it out. Fifth edition is so easy with that, and you can pick it up and run with it. But 3.5 lets you do so much. So if it was like a table of like-minded people that knew what this was and was ready to go, I definitely would swing back to 3.5 because there's so much you can do with it, and attunement isn't a thing. I can have all the magic items I want.
Well, that was the thing. The character sheet had like the body and like all the parts of your body where you could put magic items.
Well, so I do a lot of like older adventure modules that I like convert to 5e with my home group, and the problem I keep running into is that it's like it was very clear that older editions like had almost like you had toolkits. Like I have this spear that's for killing dragons, and I have this knife that's for killing ghouls, and whatever. But with attunement, that doesn't work. Because you don't necessarily know what you're going to run into when you're running into it. And if you're like, you didn't bring the right toolkit with you that day, and like 5th edition doesn't do that. 5th edition is just like, here's your +1, 2, or 3, and off you get. Which is, again, much easier for some people to wrap their heads around, but lets you do less. So I keep running into situations. There's like a thing in Homebrew called like rapid attunement that we adopted because it was like, I need to be able to let them have more than 2 magic items and figure it out as they go.
Yeah. All right, Bennett.
Well, I've only really experienced 5e.
We're gonna change that at Gen Con.
Okay.
We're gonna change that. That's a promise.
I've experienced 5e as far as Dungeons and Dragons goes.
Okay.
But it's all I know. So that's kind of where I'm at, and as far as like-minded individuals, I mean that's kind of what my current game that I DM at home.
Sure.
Literally right in this room, right behind me, and Mega Bro is actually in that game. Big Tony's in that game. Lady Serana comes and watches every week or every other week, pretty much, at least recently, and we've been hitting some really high story points in all that, but. To kind of touch on what Connor was saying is like I had a friend of mine, his name's John, and he had never played D&D before. He works at Wormwood, and he came up to me and he was just like, I had this idea for this character. Would you be interested in like helping me try to like build it? And I'm like, bro, I will make a campaign for you to play. So I picked the table with exactly that, with a bunch of people who are super open to A, helping out, B, making wonderful characters, C, great role play, and we, here again, 4 years ago, here we are. And we're still going, and it's probably been some of the most wonderful group making moments in like that game experience, for him, and for me as the storyteller. It's been phenomenal.
Lauren?
I absolutely love 4th edition.
Okay.
And I know there's going to be a lot of people out there
No.
playing somewhere. But yeah, while I got the red box when I was young, really the first time I got a chance to actually play was 4th edition. And I got started right at the beginning of 4th edition when it just dropped. And I still love the overall mechanics of it. I have really fond memories of a bunch of the games that I played. It's my first couple of minis I ever painted came out of 4th edition games. The first time I DM'd came out of 4th edition. And I've pulled a whole bunch of stuff from 4th edition that are in my 5th edition games that I run that are homebrew. I've got minions in there. I still tell people that if a creature's gotten bloodied, things like that. And I really enjoyed because 4th edition, for those that don't know, it was very much a pared down type of system, in where basically you had things that you could do all the time. You had things that you could only do once of combat, things you can only do once a day, and then some other stuff, and they all came on these cards. And so I got easily a half a dozen to a dozen people into D&D because I was able to take basically the stat block and the cards and sit them down and be like, all right, here you go. And half of them were WoW players.
Okay.
Which I know was one of the driving reasons behind some of the 4th edition discussions. And so putting that down in front of people and being like, okay, here's your dailies, here's your once per encounter, here's your at wills, move minor standard, let's go. Yeah. And it was amazing. I still would have to go 5th edition though.
Okay.
Even though, yeah, I have so many good memories of 4th edition, but part of it is like how a bunch of you have already said, 5th edition is actually really easy to get people into. And because 5th edition is more compatible with most of the other editions, you can pull things from 2, you can pull things from 3.5 and 3. You like, I kind of know how to hodgepodge a 4th edition thing into my 5th edition game because I played it enough, but there's no fortitude save, and there's all sorts of stuff that are just not even in. So between the ease of being able to teach people and the fact that it kind of opens up the amount of stuff that you can grab, I'm gonna stick with 5th edition.
Okay. That'll kind of lead us in, because we all kind of touched on playing in the different editions of the game. Would you rather be a player or would you rather be the DM? And
yes.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. See, that is a good answer. The storyteller in me is constantly screaming, "Be the DM," which is odd because when you're the DM, the story is your player's story. It's not yours at all. You know what I mean? Like, they're the ones telling the story. You're just kind of throwing obstacles and ideas at them for them to riff off of. But at the same time, you have a path that you can put them on, and you can write, and that you can create, and you have ideas that you can throw up in the air and just see what balls they catch and play with. So for me, like, I love playing, and I don't get to play nearly as much as I would like to, but I love DMing. DMing is fun.
So my home group, we've been playing in the same homebrew world based off of northeast of Boston, like the metropolitan Boston area. It's like that, but fantasy. We're playing in a campaign setting. We call it the Suffering Coast because of Suffolk County. Um,
Oh, that's
and
amazing.
we've been playing there for almost 10 years now, and three of us are DMs. And like all of the campaigns are interconnected, and we're even doing this thing now where it's like a lot of like the stuff left over from other campaigns are sort of like coming to a head, like our end game situation, and we are trading off. So like I'm
Ooh.
DMing for a couple weeks, and the next guy's DMing for a couple weeks, then the third guy DMs for a couple weeks. We rotated around. So like I don't need to pick. It's we just take it in turn, and we got between the three of us, I think we're all really talented at DMing, and we bring different things to the different campaigns that we're doing, and we all like have been playing together for so long that we know the characters, we know the world, and I don't like. At no point did I ever sit there and go like, oh, uh, DM number two, you know, don't do that because like that'll ruin this whole thing over here. You
Sure.
know, like we even have our own little separate chat where even though they're players and like I want them to be surprised about the things they do and vice versa, like we're all pretty comfortable like talking to each other about like what it is that we're doing and why. Um, so I don't even think that I think about am I a player or a DM in that because like the way that we've been playing for so
It's
long now,
yes.
it kind of it is just yes, like because
Yeah.
it's both.
That's the hardest game of yes and I think I've ever heard of, where you have multiple DMs and you have to go along with it
Yep.
But
because
it's the best though, right? Because people who have had the experience of DMing, yeah, they're gonna yes and all the ridiculous stuff. They're probably gonna make some super optimized or ridiculous characters, but they also know what it's like to be on the other side of the screen.
yeah,
So they also know what it's like to try to adjudicate things fairly and to keep the story moving and to spread around the spotlight and like
yeah,
all of the things that are things that make a good DM a good DM. And so people who play who have had experience DMing are better players because they know not just how to be good players for their DM, but how to basically help the DM with stuff like making sure that the party goes through the door, not
yeah.
just sits at the door for 5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bennett, what about you? Player or DM?
Yes.
Yeah.
So right now, a couple shout outs into the chat because one of my DMs for another game is in it. One of my players from that same game is also in it. Mega Bro is player
Mega
in my
Bro, that's the best
game.
name.
So JSpot TX, he's my DM for a Dragonlance campaign. Masked is in that, and it's so much fun.
Let me throw something out real quick. Anyone in the chat, if you guys want to answer these questions too, by all means, speak up in the chat. Let us know what you guys think too, because this is all just about building community and getting together and hanging out and having a good time. So if you feel free, if one of us asks a question to each other and you have a comment or if you have an opinion about something, throw it out in chat. We'd love to hear it.
But yeah, so right now, I am a part of 4 games.
Oh gosh, I wish.
I'm a player in 3 of them and a DM in 1 of them. And then I have my full-time job and my social life and my creative life and the other stuff, not like whatever. Yeah, I have to be at least a DM somewhere and a player for everything that you guys already said. One, it's more fun to be on the other side of the screen, looking at, like, for example, Randall, you know Nick.
Yeah.
Pennier. He's my DM for the longest campaign that I've been in, and there are times where I'm sitting in my player seat and he's doing stuff, and I put it together before he finishes, and I just look at him and I'm just like, but I can't say anything because I'm a player, not, so you go along with it and all this other stuff, and it's funny because he's like, he uses me as an indicator that if he hasn't explained something well enough and I'm not already side-eyeing the crap out of him, he's like, okay, if Bennett picks it up, at least I'm doing okay. But if nobody else picks it up, it's sometimes a problem. But yeah, I have to be both because I just have to. I've enjoyed playing with you, Randall, as a player in a one shot. I've had a phenomenal time watching story unfold with a table of 6, being a part of a table of 6, and then running a one-on-one miniature campaign for a first-time player who is also in chat, Lady Serana. Writing fun stuff and watching her get excited about what is going on and like, oh my god, what do I do, and guiding her through like the story and things like that. Just all of the aspects from veteran player to veteran player, veteran DM to veteran player, and new player to veteran DM or player. It's like all those combinations and experiencing that journey. Like I have to have all of it. Otherwise I'm not happy.
That's just greedy.
Yeah, but I'm the main character in my story, so
that's true. Yep, that's true. That's true. That's fair. That's fair. Okay. Lauren, what about you?
I totally agree. The ideal is to have a little bit of both, right? To have that, the DM, and in fact, when you were talking about 3 games that you're the player of and 1 game that you're the DM of, I kind of feel like that's perfect because you've got one game that I could mentally put my DMing focus in, and then the other 3 are where I get to kind of let loose everything else. The sad reality is I don't always have that nice balance, and they tend to come in cycles. In where for a while I'm the forever DM, and then for a while I'm just playing all the time. For a while I'm doing all the DMing, and I tend to, and it's not on purpose, but if I'm doing way more DMing than playing, I'm kind of itching to play somewhere. And if I'm doing way more playing than DMing, I'm kind of itching to get another game going that I'm DMing.
Sure.
So it's grass is always greener kind of thing.
There was actually a thing because that was part of it. I was only DMing for a while, and we do this thing at my table that I DM at where one of my players is also a DM. On my birthday, we swap seats.
Ooh.
Nice.
So he runs an
right.
in-can one-shot that affects my world, and we talk about certain things.
Sure.
It's like I don't want to break the thing and this thing, everything, whatever. But it's a really fun. It's a really fun thing. So it's been like an anniversary kind of thing. Every time my birthday comes around, he sits in the DM seat, I sit in the player seat, and I played a different character.
That's fun.
Like I pick one of the NPCs that's relevant, and I just play that NPC in the game, and that was really fun. Like I will never not do that. I love that. I hope he never runs out of ideas because it's a super fun thing.
So I'm gonna force you to pick one, Lauren. You gotta pick one. I want you. I want to hear it. What would you rather do?
It's not that I would rather do it, but I'm going to pick player.
Okay.
Mostly because some of my most favorite experiences, both as a professional TTRPG person and just home games, have all been me as a player.
Okay.
And it's not that I haven't had super special, awesome things as a DM, but a lot of the time, those super special moments are also colored by the fact that I'm thinking about 12 things at once, and I'm like, oh, but I really failed to talk about this, and I really should have done this more. There's always that weird anxiety that comes along, the social anxiety of like, did I do this right? Whereas as a player, I've got kind of some slightly more concrete. So I think just by a hair.
That's all right. That's fair. I get it. Luke McKay in chat had a really good question. How many times have you had a character get to level 20, and how do you feel about those high-level campaigns? I never have. I've never gotten to level 20. I think I had a 7-year campaign. I think we capped out before, like when we got to like the end of the story, because there was a definitive end to the story for this game, and I think the highest we got was like 14. And that's kind of where we capped it. I think that's the highest level I've ever had that wasn't like a one-shot. Mm-hmm. So no, I have never gotten to level 20. Anyone else? Has anyone gotten to a level 20 character? Or in 4E 30 or whatever it was?
Not yet.
It's cheating, but every once in a while we make like 20th level characters that like exist in the prehistory of our worlds, and we do like a boss rush of whatever the highest CR creatures are available at the time.
I think that's cheating. I think that's
fun.
fair.
That's fun. That's
but no, we usually
much fun.
This is like the first time we haven't stopped around like level 15 because we're too strong and we don't want it all just be gods or something. So but like we're sort of like landing in that space where everyone's got like a lot of powerful feats and abilities, and they're consistently going toe to toe with CR20 creatures. So we're getting real close, you know. So I think this will be the first time we hit 20 naturally, not just like we roll up 20s and off we get.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've been very lucky in where I've both played a 1 to 20 and DM'd a 1 to 20.
Oh wow.
And another game in where it was essentially 1 to 18, which is close
Pretty
enough.
darn close, yeah.
Yeah, and especially in that game, weirdly enough, I was the only character who wasn't multi-classed. So I think originally the idea was we were going to stop at like 16 or 17, but because I was the only character that only had the one class, they kind of pushed an extra level or two, so some of the others who had multi-class could get to some certain thresholds to do really cool things. I love it. I love it because it gets weird and wild and wonky in all the best ways.
Sure.
Every high level spell you get access to is world bending and shattering. You get a chance to just go after some creatures that are you only get to hear about in other people's stories.
Sure,
you get to hear about,
sure.
you know, that kind of thing. And having started from 1 or 3 and making it all the way there it's kind of neat to then look back on what you were when you were just a baby adventurer kind of thing. Yeah, it can take a little while, although I've started to get better about running stuff in where we get through some of those earlier levels a little bit quicker, especially with some groups that are fairly experienced at 5th edition. So like we may start at level 3 or level 5, but I'll kind of push them a little bit more to get to 9 or 10 pretty quickly.
Can get grindy at those low levels.
Well, and I don't do milestone.
Okay.
I don't. Basically, I do milestone with experience, but
You throw the high CR creature that's way too tough for them at certain specific intervals, right?
Well, it's more like I give experience at the end of every single session, and I give experience for not just killing the monster. I give it for cool roleplay moments.
Yep.
I give it for solving
should.
puzzles. Yeah,
Absolutely.
That's the one thing out of all the books that I kind of wish there was more about that in there. So I kind of cheat and I give out experience after every session, which helps some of my players who like to see numbers go up. They see numbers go up. But then I just happen to math it out so that they reach the next level just when I need them to.
Sure.
So it's a little bit of both. But it's so much fun, and I've been really lucky in the past couple of years to be able to play several high-level either high-level campaigns that have reached that point, or essentially mini-series, 6-7 episodes
Sure.
of an adventure that is already at that level. And it's the thing that I've definitely discovered is that there's stuff I've never gotten a chance to do because it's so rare to be at that level that I really want the chance to try. And I feel like everybody's kind of got that wish list as a player, especially like, I kind of wish I could get to level 20 so that I could X, Y, and Z.
That brings up a point that I want to talk about later. So I'm gonna put a pin in you right there because there's something I want to talk about later that kind of goes along with that. Bennett, what about you? Any high level campaigns?
Currently, my main campaign, the 4-year one, we just hit level 13.
Okay.
That is my highest level I've played. And we are, I believe we're planning to get to 20. And then in my campaign, I am also planning to get them to 20. So I hopefully in the next however long will experience both as a player and a DM.
Nice.
Excellent.
Nice. Awesome.
Enjoy.
Okay, I think we talked about a bunch of stuff that's kind of opinionated, that kind of stuff, and I love that. I love learning this stuff about you guys because we interact in social spaces and we get together at conventions and we get to hang out and stuff. But hearing this and talking about those aspects of our games, I love it. I love learning about people. I love getting to know you, so that's fun. part two of our little show that we're going to do here. I thought it'd be interesting to kind of take a few minutes to talk a little bit about the things that are kind of popping up in the TTRPG community, like currently. Things that might be popping on social media, or things that are new releases from some of the companies that are out there, things like that. So first thing I want to talk about, and I am in no way, shape, or form trying to get anyone canceled or anything like that, but I want to ask the question. I've seen on social media lately that the topic of D&D consent forms has come up again. And it's like, this is maybe a year or two ago is when this first came out, and people were like, there's this consent form. If anyone in chat or anyone watching doesn't know, a consent form that basically you hand out to, if you're a DM, you hand out to your players, and it asks them questions, what they're comfortable with, what they're okay with, what do you want to see at the table, just to gauge where everybody is with certain aspects of role play. And to make sure that everyone has a good time, everyone's comfortable, and that no one feels, put out in any way while sitting at the table. Because when we're sitting at the table together, we should be having fun. There shouldn't be a situation that makes anyone uncomfortable, makes anyone upset, anything like that. And there are some situations that come up in any type of fantasy literature and movies that it could potentially come up in your game. And if it does, is that going to trigger some people? So, consent forms. Have you used them? If you're a DM, do you pass them out? What has your experience been with these? And I'm going to leave this up to you guys. I'm just throwing the question out. I'd love to hear the conversation.
So far, I really haven't experienced one, but I've read about them and I really appreciate them. But for me as a DM and a player, it's really been more of a above table conversation as a group, both as the DM and then as the player, so far in my very little experience. But I love the idea of it, and I think if I wasn't playing with people that I'm very familiar with or with really close friends, I may adopt it just to be open-minded. But currently everything aside from the campaign that Jay's invited me to play, everybody else that I've really played with are super close friends that I really know. So
you already have that comfort level.
Yeah, so we already have that rapport. And it's easy to have that conversation, face to face at the table. So.
Sure. Well, that brings up another thing is when you write it down, does that take some of the edge off of having that conversation?
Sure. I mean, I personally would think so, especially if you're not familiar with anybody, either next to you or at the
for one shots at a convention or something like that. Sure.
Especially.
I mean, you're kind of hitting it all on the head. Yeah, I've definitely adopted it for pretty much everything that I do. And then it's been incredibly helpful in situations in where I'm either running a one-shot or joining or running a game for people who I might be friends with but are not those kind of lifelong friends, those people that I've played with forever and ever and ever. And the one that I like to use is actually, it's not the checklist that's going around, though that checklist is awesome, don't get me wrong. I have a slightly different one, basically does the same thing, but it's a Google spreadsheet that you can go into anonymously and basically do the same thing, tick off the boxes or add something.
Okay.
Which I really, really like because that means that anyone can go in and take a look and it's still anonymous. If
Sure.
I put down, I don't want spiders, I don't need anyone to know that I don't want spiders. But now everybody, including the other players, which is really important if, say, you have a druid who wants to turn into a giant spider.
Right.
So I've found it invaluable. But I do a lot of playing with strangers on the internet.
Sure.
But even with friends, like my podcast game, which I've been playing with them since 2010. We've done one full campaign. We did a whole summer of a whole bunch of other stuff, and we've started a second campaign. Part of the second campaign, I did include that spreadsheet with the checklist and everything, because I'm like, it's been forever since I've actually checked in about any of these things with everybody. And since the last time I did, people have gotten married, people have had kids, people have moved. There's been a pandemic, there's been a this, that, and the other thing. And so for me, even with people that I know really, really well, and part of this is these are all online games. These are unfortunately not games where we're all sitting around a table. I think if we were all at a table together, especially that group, I'd be like you, Bennett, and where I could just talk with them.
Sure.
But in this way, it's like I'm just gonna make sure. And it is such a relief. It is huge relief because I know I'm not gonna accidentally step in a puddle of mud.
Yep.
And then also, and this is kind of the way that I sell it to people who are like, it's safety tools, the other end of that you mentioned, which is the tell me what you want, what you really, really want.
Yeah.
Tell you what I want, what I really,
really want.
Yeah, exactly. So like telling a DM, okay, these are the things that I want out of this game. These are the situations. These are the experiences. These are the monsters. Here's like the checklist of things I really am excited about. That's so good to have as a DM. And so that's kind of how I help new people who are new to the idea of safety tools in general and the checklist. And they're having that moment of, but I can just talk to my players. That's great. Just in case, do this thing because then, maybe one of your players has really wanted to, be a warlock with a patron that they end up killing at the end of their game. You're never going to know about that if they don't say it, and maybe they don't want to say it in front of everybody. They'll put it on the sheet. So that's my quick spiel. But I do play a lot of games with people that I either don't know or only know a little bit, or I run charity games, and so it's a lifesaver.
By the end of this stream here, everyone has to say which GM they are. I'm Sporty GM. I'm just putting that out there right now.
I don't like where this is going. I've never used one of the consent forms. I've been aware of them. I think I saw the Monty Cook one like years ago.
Yeah.
They were they got popular like a couple of years ago, but that was even before. I think it was like 2019 or something. Those started coming around, and we're actually working on a product now that the writer included a version of that in their original draft. I think they're super valuable. I see why someone would want to use them. I've never used them because I play with a lot of people I know. I can see how if you're like doing like an online game with people you don't know, where you would want to do this. And I love the idea, Lauren, that you brought up with it being anonymous. I like that a lot better. So the other half of my life, I work at a school with kids, and there's like a lot of information that like sometimes you get about kids and their triggers and their experiences and things that like you're not supposed to share or talk about, and that's like very private, privy information. And for me, I don't know. It feels weird. I was saying this to you guys earlier before the show. Like I can also see how that could potentially get abused a little bit, especially if it's with people you don't know.
Okay. And
I don't know. That's just like, not that I'm saying anyone using one of these is doing that. Like it's just like and I'm not accusing anyone either. It's just like seeing that. I'm just like I see the value. I see how good this can be. Personally, if I was to be filling one of these out, I would 100% want it to be anonymous, and for the DM to be the kind of person that's going to go, okay, these are the list of things I should never go anywhere near, and that's the end of the conversation.
Yeah.
Or the other side of it is that it's like you should all know each other well enough that like, not everyone gets to play with people they know really well, but if you were playing with people you know well enough, that you could have the open conversation like during a session 0 to say. These are things I don't want to explore, and just be very general about it. If you don't want to get specific, but the other thing is like this is something that doesn't exist, past session 0, like because the DM should like be like these are things I'm never touching, so it should never have to come up again. And those are just my general thoughts about it. But like I said, I've never had to use one, so like it's not like I have like this deep-rooted opinions about it. It's like, hey, you shouldn't use them or you should use them. I'm just kind of like, I don't know, like,
If it works for you, awesome.
yeah, but
Yeah.
if this is something that works for you, and if you're a player that's like, I want this because it makes me feel safe or it makes me feel better, and like especially playing with people I
Sure.
don't know,
Mm-hmm.
then you should be doing it. But I don't know, like I said, like my experience is
Right.
not to have ever used these, so it's just kind of like neat. It's there. Use
Yeah.
it.
I'm gonna bounce off of Lauren a little bit because I have, and you also, Connor, because I have never used them. Most of my home games that I have, the one home game is me and a bunch of my idiot friends that we go and we all met tailgating in college. You know, so we're all knuckleheads and we just know what's fun and we know what we're there about, what we're there for. So I don't need to worry about that in that situation. The other group is people that I've known since high school, you know, so for 25 plus years, you know, and I've gotten a relationship with them where we can kind of jump in and do just about anything with each other and talk about and do whatever. So I've never really had that opportunity. Two things that come to mind right now. One, getting into the space and playing more games online. Yes, because these are people that I don't know. You know, these are people that I don't have that relationship, those same relationships with. So being able to make sure that they're comfortable coming and playing with me, that's important. Second thing, even the people that I know really well and I'm comfortable with, I don't always know how their mindset changes. Say we're in a story where, you know, there's a very deep cut into one of the characters' families and it talks about, you know, a loss of a parent or something like that. One of my really, really good friends just lost their mother a year or two ago. Is that something that we want to touch on? So that's it brings up the question of, we have this story arc and this thread that's been going for so long. Maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's not. I don't know, but this is an excellent opportunity to open that dialogue and to make sure that there is always that open communication at your table. So again, yeah, I've never used it, but even at the table that I've been sitting at for 20 some years, it's not going to necessarily be a bad thing to have.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and a couple of things came up that I think are super important, and I totally agree with Connor that, like, when I found the anonymized version, that became like pretty much the version that I use all the time now, because it's not just the comfort level for everybody, but because I do a lot of streamed games, that also lets me share that with the producer, with the editor, with people who are not necessarily even going to be on screen. But they get a chance to see that as well and be aware. But even if the other thing that got mentioned is, I think because it became such a bigger deal a couple of years ago, we're now seeing it end up just written right into the game.
Yeah.
Just right there. I think one of the versions of the new they've been putting out the new 2024
5.5.
Yeah, whatever we're calling it.
Yeah.
I seem to remember some UA included a whole. I don't know if we're supposed to call it that. I don't know.
Oh.
It included that. I played a horror game a couple of years ago called The Midnight World, which was fantastic and had a whole section that was just about the safety tools and ways that you can deal with, because especially a horror game and one that deals with especially traumatic things and PTSD, they went into it pretty deep of like, here are some options. And then the other thing to think about is, and maybe this is just because I've had that experience, sometimes just the offer, even if you don't use it, is the open door. Because what kind
Would
of
you
goes
like
along,
this?
would you like this? And even if everyone goes, nah, we kind of know each other, the offer is there, and it does then open up the option of other safety tools that, in my mind, are just as important, and that can be really useful. Or if none of that happens, now at least everybody in the group knows, oh, okay, we all feel comfortable enough sitting at this table that I don't think we need to use this. But if something comes up, I know because it came up, I'm gonna feel comfortable just like messaging the DM and letting them know. And
Sure.
Yep.
and it's like I said, for me, the thing that I keep coming back to is that people I've known for a while, or brand new people, like things change, and stuff
Yeah.
that was not a
Yeah.
problem, and it's happened to me on camera in game, something that was never a problem that I never even thought of. That wasn't even happening in the game. It just looked like it was about to happen. The storyline was going down that road. And when I realized and like gut wrenching, nope, I don't think I want to be here for this kind of thing. But knowing that that was something like that safety tools in general had been talked about, that we had done these checklists, I was able to just very comfortably DM my DMs,
Yeah.
be like, hey, and they were able to reassure me like, oh no, that's on someone else's lines and veils. You're not gonna have to worry about that. We're not going in that direction.
Okay.
So like just having the offer, even if you don't fill out the checklist, even if you never look at an X and an O card ever again,
Yeah.
I think is really helpful. But
Yeah.
once again, you all have I'm so envious that like you all have home games, in-person games with people that you've been playing with for years and years and years. And I got my one little online podcast, and then like just dozens of games with people that I'd never known before I sat down at a virtual table with them before. So
You know what? That goes both ways, though, because that's an amazing opportunity to see different stories and to meet different people and their points of view and their characters and stuff like that. So I'm a little envious of you in that regard as well.
And
I mean,
also-
I'm envious. I don't have a podcast.
wait a second. I've just found a guy on the internet who doesn't have a podcast. What?
Yeah.
How did you get through the last 4 years without a podcast?
Art.
Fair.
Very fair.
And you know, even with playing with people that, you know, like I've known one of these guys for like 15 years, and the rest of the guys like I've been playing with for years and years now. There's definitely been some like instances where it was like, whoa, like everyone dramatically is like, time out, like so like things can change, and you could definitely even have those moments with people that you're like very close with and that you trust and that you think that like something's gonna be fine and then it's not. But if someone says something like blatantly inappropriate and everyone's like not even sure what to say or do, and we're all just like staring down the table at the one guy who's like, what, I can't say that? That's like, oh god.
The funny thing being that most of the tales that I've heard of people having those situations, a lot of the time they're not like the things that none of us really want to have to deal with. That when you think of
No.
safety tools, you think of the big ones. You
Yeah,
think
yeah.
you know, racism, sexism, homophobia, you know, all those big ones. The first time it happened to me in 4th edition, that I'd been playing with a group for literally 2 years. We were at the I was running a game in where they were at the second to last encounter. This was like the amuse-bouche encounter just before they went into the big like campaign ending bad.
A little
and
bite.
a little taste, a little appetizer. I threw giant spiders at them. Literally several people at the table like noped. Nope, not do nope. And I'd gone through the process of like printing out little on pieces of paper a little image of a spider that I got because I was poor, so I didn't have minis, and like all that stuff. And several people at that table literally just noped out because of spiders.
Yeah.
Sure.
And we were able to kind of work through it because same as all of you, these were people I'd played with for a while. But I do think back to that moment of like, oh, if I'd known, then I wouldn't have even put spiders down, you know,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that's usually where I hear the tales about it, because like the big ones, the big nasty things, or like, you know, the sexy stuff, or the things that like
Right.
will get you a rating in a movie or a video game.
Sure.
Most people know to be at least a little cautious of that. But a lot of people don't think about, you know, swimming in the ocean. Oh, wait, I can't see land?
Sure.
I'm out.
Sure.
You know, that
Sure.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
Even in pretend, that can trigger some
Trigger.
emotions that And
Studies that say that when you're playing D&D, your brain doesn't know the difference between
oh,
this
that's
is pretend.
amazing.
reality is a
I
thing.
want to read that study. That's fascinating to me.
It's
Oh, yeah.
kind of wild actually, and to kind of piggyback off that for a brief second. My main character that I use for Nick's campaign that I've mentioned, he's a dragonborn fighter paladin, elaborate backstory, all this crazy stuff and whatever. But I put him through a lot of emotional stresses for his internal story, because Bennett is working on emotional stresses and deeper understandings and stuff like that. So utilizing D&D as a safe place with friends to address triggers and to address intellectual emotional issues has been freeing. And when I saw that study, how the brain can't tell reality versus fantasy, the difference there as you're experiencing it, I'm like, oh wow, this is
We're
wow.
running a group therapy session.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's that idea of D&D is not therapy, but it can be therapeutic.
But it can
Yeah.
be, yeah. And we've had moments at both of my tables on either side of the screen where we've had utter emotional
Just tears. Yeah.
broken moments.
Emotional damage.
Yeah, and even moments when like the table, like in character, everybody gets wicked heated and
Oh,
and
sure.
full arguments. And then one thing that I would would do is in those times, it's like, oh, once the scene is done, I go, okay, gentlemen, we're all friends here. Character stuff and person stuff are not the same. We're all good, and
Yeah.
everybody's and most of the time, most of the people that I surround myself with so far have been super like, oh yeah, no, we get that. But once in a while, like, John is a very new character, a new person to the scene, and even though it's been 3-4 years, we had a really heated one, super intense session like the other week, and we all needed to take a moment because we could see it in his face. He's like, are they actually mad at me? Like, what's happening? And I could see the tension, and one of the players actually did it before I got to it, and Ben was like, hey, character me and me, we're good, bro. Everything's fine. This
We're
is
fine.
just the
Yeah.
drama. We're
No,
all
yeah.
good. And we just kind of sat and chatted about it. And then, like, went back into the game, and everything was fine. Same thing with my other table. Like, myself and another character got really heated in an argument, like, over ethics and viewpoints and stuff like that. And I'm like, you're being really fucking closed-minded. Like, what is wrong with you? This, that, and the other thing. And we had it out. And then once the argument was over, I was like, yo, we're good. You know that, right? And he goes, oh, yeah. I'm like, okay, good. I just want to I want to check in. That's it. We're good. Let's go.
And that's such a beautiful moment too. Like
Oh,
that
for sure.
moment.
Yeah,
is
that
so
come
good.
down. Yeah.
Yeah. And that bleed that can happen, you know, even when even when you're like
Sure.
intellectually, oh yeah, I'm totally cool with you. We just had an amazing scene. But once again, brain can't tell the difference between the fantasy and the
Yes.
reality. This is why when we talk about our previous games, it's not that my character did this. I did this. I did this. I did this. I
Right.
did this.
Right.
And so sometimes even just knowing, like, okay, all right, I'm cool with you. I really am, and this was super cool. But oh yeah, emotions. Having a lot of emotions right now, and like that kind of check-in is so cool. And I've encouraged people on stream to do it. We do a lot of that backstage. There's
Sure.
a lot of that, you know, some emotional
Sure.
or intense thing is happening, and then in the Zoom chat backstage, we're all like, "You cool? You everything
Everybody
okay?
good?
Mhm.
Everybody
And
good?
every
Okay.
once in a while, I try to get people to just do it on camera so that people can see that
Sure.
How important that
that-
is.
that it's important. And a lot of the time, you hear about people who are like, "Oh, I don't want to break immersion." It won't break immersion.
No.
That check-in, it continues immersion because now you have the relief of,
Sure.
okay, yeah, they're not really mad at me, so I can just get right back into it.
Right. Yep.
And
Awesome.
two things, real quick. One, I got really excited when you said paper minis because I pulled out the box. I still have my Spelljammer paper minis.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
that's amazing.
I have a whole box of them.
Hey, look at
Um,
that.
That's
so cool.
delightful.
But I've had I've had some pretty bad experiences where like the DM like was not paying attention to like the characters' motivations and really our player motivations and what the characters wanted and thought about in the world. Like he was just telling a story and we were characters, but like the characters we were playing did not matter to this story. And like my character like had lost his family, most of them had been killed, was like searching for his wife, and the DM made the wife like the the mini boss before the big bad boss who was like being mentally
Oh.
controlled. And so he's standing there like, "Ha, so now you have to kill your own wife." And I'm like, "Oh, no. I fight alongside her." And he's like, "But you've been fighting for the kingdom and your friends for all this time. Why would you do that?" Because I'm
Because.
married to that person and I'm only hanging out with these idiots because I've been trying to find her. Well, she's mentally, psychically controlled. Do I know that? Well, I just told you. Does my character know that? Well, but I just told you. So my character doesn't know that. And it turned into PvP. And when the healer, a high-level druid, the only healer in the party,
Right.
suddenly switches sides, it's not great.
Yeah.
So he's sitting there like the whole time, and they're like, can you stop? Could you stop? And I'm like, no. And it only ended when they killed my character's wife, and I like. And they're like running out of hit points, and they're like, "What do we do?" And I went and like revived her, and she was like, "No, wait, I was being mentally controlled." But afterwards, he's like, "Why did you do that? Like, you turn into PvP, and it's almost like druids at a high level are broken
Yeah.
when they're the only one that gives out hit points." for
Which
the
they
party. And I'm
are.
like,
Um,
well, I'm not sure if all the red flags over the past year would have indicated that this is how the character would have reacted, but
yeah.
maybe you should have thought about that. Maybe you
Right.
should have asked. You know, like I
Right.
don't feel bad about this at all. Like,
Yeah.
This is gonna be the last little thing I'm gonna bring up, and that just kind of spikes that little idea of it's what my character would do, and it's interesting because like we're all just playing a part. You know,
Sure.
we're living the life of this imaginary being in a land, you know, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So it can be like that can be like we're trying to give truth to that character, and we're trying to, you know, let them be who they are and stuff like that. But those actions can be just as triggering to the people at the table.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So this kind of hits a little bit of both in this
also, like,
conversation.
there's the meme of, oh, it's what my character would do.
Yeah.
You know? But you know, like there's also the other side of that coin where it's like, what are the things my character wouldn't do? Like, if,
Yeah.
like let's be real about it for a second. If you want to suspend disbelief and, you know, it's like role play your character, man, then it's like you got to take the good with the bad. And ultimately, at the end of the day, you know, if you have a character that like it would not make any logical sense for them to make a decision, but for story purpose, character purposes, with outside knowledge and understanding of the general plot, like they're not going to make that decision because I know. Like they're going to make the decision that makes sense for them to make. And,
Right.
like to
Right.
sit
Yeah.
there, like it's not like no one should be surprised
That's-
when the high level rogue like lets the party that all got poisoned die, picks up their magic items, and becomes a lord. Like, why did you do that? Like, well,
There's a difference too between like theatrical and malicious, right?
Right.
Like
Sure.
if
Yeah.
and that comes down to, you know, that early on picking your players, having the conversation, everybody understanding what they're expecting and what they're playing, you know. But yeah, the whole my character would do it is a double-edged sword, and you can find that because human beings have human nature. You have those two sides. You have the malicious side, which is never fun for the table, and in
No.
the end, it's like, is everyone enjoying themselves? Is the drama good drama, whether it's traumatic, intense, or what? Like, is it
Yeah.
is it for the story or is it for you? Slippery slope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the vast majority of the time, I find when it's because I think we've all experienced that moment of, oh, this is what my character would do, but I don't know if I really want to do that.
Right.
Like,
Sure.
just sometimes the doing the whole above table thing. Hey, this is a situation where my character is leaning this way.
Yep.
But I know that that's not going to be fun for everybody. Or let me check. Would that be fun for everybody? If not,
Exactly.
hey, can we come up with a reason why my character would do something else? Can one of you help me?
That pause
You know?
button. That
Yeah,
pause
I had
button
a-
and check in.
Yeah,
Like
I had
real
a-
people, characters have they're more complex than the black and white cardboard cutouts of caricatures. You know,
Yep.
like for a character to get into the actual situation and then like deep down in their gut be like, okay, this is what I thought I wanted or thought I would do, but now that I'm confronted with it,
Sure.
you know that it's not impossible to say that like when you're in that moment and you're like, oh, I know what my character would do, but like
Mhm.
I don't like this. You know, it's not a too far cry to then say that your
Yeah.
character would do the exact same thing. You know,
Sure.
that be confronted with that and be like, oh, like I know what I should be doing, I know what I want to do,
Mm-hmm.
but I know that I can't bring myself to do it. You know, that's not unreasonable to think a character would do. But there's
It's like-
also some things that like they're just too deep. Like Goblin Slayer's gonna slay goblins. Like let's call it what it is.
It's all those Sith choices in KOTOR. Oh gosh.
I'll tell you though, if when you have those conversations with somebody else, with another player or the players at the table of like, okay, here's the roadblock. Help me get around the roadblock. Oftentimes, it ends up being these really cool role-playing moments because you kind of then write the story with everybody and go, okay, here's the basics of what we're gonna do and how we're gonna navigate this. I had a cleric who, like, the traditional super hates undead. Undead are
Sure.
nope, gotta destroy them wherever she goes. She sees an undead, that's it, turn undead.
Falls in love with a vampire. Falls in love with a vampire. Falls in love.
Not quite. Not quite. I was jumping into a game that had someone who was playing a wizard necromancer, who was doing the I'm gonna have my minions kind of thing, and the character knew about that in advance, and I knew about that in advance. So I got together with the player, and I was like, okay, how do we do this in a way that is true to both of our characters so that I don't destroy your undead the first time they show up? You know, what do we do to kind of massage all this? And so we kind of came up with, all right, this and this and this, and we'll have this conversation, and you know, and it'll be that moment of I really should do this, I really want to do this, but I'm not going to because and it was a really, it ended up not just being a cool moment, but then a growth moment for the character, because now, all right, she's now encountered multiple times in where being the person who goes destroy all undead is not the right answer in that moment, and so I got a chance to have her wrestle with that, which was super cool. So yeah, anytime I don't think this is what my character would do is necessarily a bad impulse. It's what you do with that impulse that can be
Sure.
super cool
Yeah.
or super bad. And once again, it turns into that reassurance to people of like, it's not going to break your immersion. It will
Right.
make your immersion 3 billion times better because now you've helped author the story that everybody wants to write.
Sure. Absolutely.
Ding.
Real
Uh-oh.
off that cool.
Also, I want to be in all of your D&D games.
that cool like storytelling moment.
Gen
also
Con,
had an
one
experience
shot.
Where 100%. We were playing Star Wars Fantasy Flight, and this was
Oh,
before like
gosh.
people knew what Mandalorians were. Like I'm super into
Ooh.
Star Wars novels and comics and stuff, so I like knew a lot about them like from the expanded universe or whatever
Yeah.
we're calling it now. The stuff that Disney doesn't use. But I was playing a Mandalorian, and the DM didn't know as much about them other than like Boba Fett's one, and that the clones were cloned from one, and that's it stops and ends there. And so it was like second session, and like a high level nemesis was like, I'm calling you out, and this is a duel of honor, and I'm like, oh, I guess I'm gonna do that now. And he's like, wait, what? No, this is Connor. I'm not supposed to do this. This is a nemesis. And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm fighting. and my character died. Like my character just straight up died. Like there was no version of this where my character could have done anything but die.
Right.
This would be like if like your first session like Rogues Gallery, like, you know, selling spice for the Huns, came across Darth Vader. Game over.
God.
Like it's
Yeah.
done.
Yes.
That this was like. And I was a little mad about it. And he's sitting there like, why did you make this choice? I'm like, I don't think you understand that there was no choice for me to make and this character be. But while he didn't understand where I was coming from, that like, no, this isn't the choice you think it is. And I was frustrated because I felt like I was put in this place that I couldn't come out of. I had no
Right.
choice but to stand here and die. It resulted in this situation where I could then turn around and it's like someone else in his clan catches word this happens. And I wound up writing like this 2-page like story of this other Mandalorian. And I did not make the same character. I made a very different character, who like, you know, gets the letter that like I had been killed in this honorable duel,
Oh,
and was
gosh.
like, nope. And like mid-session, the next time they played, like the ship comes in, flank comes down. I guess I'm hanging out with you idiots now. Let's do this. We're on a revenge tour. No, we work for the Hutts. No, we're on a revenge tour, getting the ship. Like, and there was like, this cool story building moment where it's like
I am
as one
hijacking this
character-
campaign.
Yeah, you know, it's like flicks the death stick, I guess. It's like, boys, we're going hunting. What? No, we're colorful rogues.
Not
Oh,
anymore.
Now,
we ain't.
now you're real rogues. Come on, let's
Yep.
go.
I want to jump into the next thing I wanted to talk about. Like I love that we have the opportunity to talk about these things that are kind of jumping around in our circles on socials and stuff like that. But I want to talk a little bit about the industry because there's a lot of cool stuff that's happening right now. There's all the different games that are being produced by different third-party publishers. I don't want to say independent publishers because like Paizo, not independent. That's a big company. But they're coming up with their own thing. Critical Role is coming up with their own thing. MCDM is coming up with their own thing. I just came up with my own thing. So there's so much out there, but there are still lots of people that are doing things for 5e, which is the file that I sent to you guys. So Ghostfire Games, I love Ghostfire. I love the Grim Hollow setting. It's like the dark, creep. Like it's nothing what I do with my work and stuff. Like I do all the kiddie fun stuff. Grim Hollow's the dark, like gritty, undead and nasty. Like it's the fun stuff. They come out with a new class, the Monster Hunter, and I ate this thing up with like a knife and fork. I wanted so bad. As soon as I started reading this, it's like I want to play test this so bad. It's so much fun. I want to get your guys' kind of thoughts on this. For those that are watching, those in the chat, you can go over to ghostfire.com. They have a link set up where you can go in, join. It's basically like you have to. It's a 99-cent down payment that gets you into the Kickstarter that they're going to be launching later this year for their new products. But it gives you the PDF for the Monster Hunter. So go check it out and give them some support and check it out because this is a lot of fun. And that also gets you set up for the rest of the time for all the playtests for this thing. Looking at it, there's a couple of things that I want to dive into and kind of bite into and stuff like that. Is this something, let me ask, is this something that we're not getting anywhere else in D&D? Is this like this is a new class? Is it scratching that itch for a new class, or is there some overlap here? What are you guys thinking?
So
Yes and no.
Okay.
yeah, I'm in the same place.
Okay.
So I'm not trying to just sit here and plug my own thing, but
Plug your thing.
Plug your
Rolex
thing.
has,
We're gonna plug more stuff
Rolex has
later.
a bunch of classes, and we can talk about that if we are going to have time to plug that stuff. But
Ooh,
some of the
We'll do
comments,
this quick.
we got some feedback like after a video someone did on the book where like some of the comments were like, these all sound just like fighters, and it's like, well, it's a big book of martial combat. So if the names sound like fighters to you, there's a reason for that. It's a big book of martial combat. Like none of them should sound like wizards. But a lot of the sort of theory crafting behind a lot of those new classes we made is like these can't be subclasses because subclasses only let me have 4 perks. And also, why is that the case? Was a question I asked myself when we started designing these. There is no reason other than that's what Wizards did. But there's no reason we need to go that route. So when I made these, there was like this idea that it's like we can make a martial character like a fighter, but it doesn't need to. But I don't need to be restricted by the fighter class and only have these 4 perks to define an entirely
Sure.
different type of character. And this feels like a very similar situation where you've got like a Monster Hunter classic generic Adventures League character
Okay.
or even a Witcher, and they've sort of like combined those different elements. And I love this guild subclass idea.
guild
I love
subclass,
that.
I like that a lot.
But this feels like, but in the same way that it's like we have, this isn't a subclass for a rogue, it's not a subclass for a ranger, because that wouldn't let us do the cool things we want to do. Instead, we need to make our own class that does have overlap,
Okay.
that does have features, but gives us the freedom to be able to make something unique and different. So I definitely see the overlap. I definitely see how it's like we're gonna call it what it is. Okay, it's a ranger, but it's a totally different ranger.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
nothing like the ranger, and I think that using a ranger as a base would have hurt this so deeply, and by giving
Okay.
it its own class, that they could then make subclasses for, lets them do so much with it. And I think this is
Yeah.
all right. This is all the right stuff to have done with it. They use fighting styles and the way that like things are specialized, because I feel like one of the problems with Ranger is nothing's specialized enough, because everyone's got their favorite enemy and everyone's got like their terrain and whatever it is, but by sort of putting them into categories, so it's like you get the one guy that's like going dungeon diving, looking for the monsters, the guy that is tracking, the guy that like the idea that they're specializing in these different things, and maybe even coming from different guilds that specialize in these different types of monsters and getting different ability, like all of these things, using some amount of magic, using less magic, using no magic, like all these things make sense to do from a subclass perspective, and giving it its own class lets them do so much. So I don't even care that like someone might, surface level look at this and it's a ranger. Like, yeah, but they couldn't have done this
Right.
with a ranger.
With a ranger, right.
And I'm on board 100% with it.
Yep. Yep. You stole my answer verbatim, so
I hacked your computer and took your notes.
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
Got
You guys
me.
get it together. I
They get-
would like to disagree slightly.
Oh, okay.
100% agree that, like, yes, this is, yeah, it's a ranger. It's a better ranger than the original ranger. I'll just go ahead and say it. Even if you do Monster Slayer to Monster Hunter,
It's
you know,
better than the rangers they have now too.
well, most of them. There's a couple that are they did some good things, but that's a completely different discussion. I 100% agree with you when it comes to 2 of the 4 subclasses, because the Devourer and the Trapper do some really unique, cool things that you don't see
I
anywhere
knew.
else.
I knew
how
that
is
you
that
would like the
disagree?
Devourer. I knew it.
Because
So cool.
because the opposite of that is when I look at the Occultist and the Carver, those
Yeah.
subclasses, what I see
Meh.
is, you made a better ranger.
Right, man.
And it hurts to say that,
But it's fine.
But those 2 subclasses, the Devourer and the Trapper, like, not only do those do things that you don't get anywhere else in any of the other classes or subclasses, they're things that are kind of missing from a lot of D&D, at least the stuff that's written out. I talk a lot about how flail snails are one of my favorite monsters. The reason, there's a bunch of reasons. One of the main ones is right there in the description in the stat block. It's one of the few monsters in where it tells you what you can do with the shell. You fight this monster, you get this giant shell, And now right there in the monster manual, it says, oh, you can take this and you can turn it into this, or you can do that with it.
Yep.
And
Yep.
how many supplements are out there that are like, here's the Monster Hunter cookbook. Here's the, you can get this from the dragons and
Yep.
turn it into this.
Yep.
How many times as DMs have we had to homebrew a thing because somebody's killed the thing and went, well, this blood is acidic. I should be able to do something cool with it. So like the Devourer and the Trapper, I was all in on. They might be a little overpowered, but that's what UA is for. That's what
That's why we're
playtesting is for.
playtesting. Yeah.
Yeah, you start really powerful. It's a little easier to rein it back in than it is to push it out. But the other two, I looked at and I went,
Yeah.
I'll go be a Gloomstalker. I'll be a Fey Wanderer. So that was where I.
In all honesty, I think the Occultist we could do without. The Occultist Guild, I don't think it adds anything. It's a ranger with more spells. I mean, it's fine.
I feel because this is also for their campaigns. I don't know their campaign setting. If these are the rangers in their world, then that makes perfect sense to me.
Oh yeah.
Ghostfire's caveat.
Like we can't zoom out too far on this. And I don't know a lot. Like I've met the guys at Ghostfire. We met at Gen Con and Unplugged a few times. Super cool guys. But I don't know a lot about their game worlds, and I don't know a lot about their content specifically. Like I said, if this is their equivalent of a ranger, then that makes perfect sense to me. If it's not, then I agree. Occultists can probably just get right out of there.
But and again, I think like Lawrence said, UA will tell us that. Playtesting and stuff will tell us that. With the little caveat that I'll give is when they released this and what they set out was this was designed for Grimhollow, but it's meant to be able to be played in your homebrew in any setting. Yeah. So and yes, there is a little bit of overlap and there's a little bit of things that maybe like I was just saying, Occultist I could do without. It's not adding anything wondrous. I mean, there's a couple of feats that you could take that allow you to use some of those magical abilities. So it's
feats are expensive though.
But when I read through this, knowing that Lauren was going to be on this show today, I knew immediately.
Oh, I'm going to get called out. Jeez.
I knew immediately that she would enjoy the Devourer Guild. I knew immediately that you would.
I mean, it's food. How am I supposed to say no to food?
But it's so fun. I love the idea of this character that's hunting down these creatures and then immediately is ravenous for what their essence is, imbibing it, and then using that to make them more powerful. It's it's Kirby. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. I think one of the most interesting things about this whole class for me is the grimoire and how that I love the idea that like if you as a player lost your grimoire, you can't level up.
Ooh, yeah.
Because not until you do the thing.
Not until you
right.
remake the thing and find it again or whatever. I also love that you can create one from scratch or inherit it. I think that's super cool. So you could be legacy or you could be whatever. And then the idea that your monster type that you pick, depending on what you consume or what you're hunting or whatever, gives you all of these extra little things. I like how they split it all up. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, this is like a really interesting Venn diagram crux center bit where I'm not a blood hunter. I'm not a wizard and I'm not a ranger. I'm in here. I'm here, and this is really interesting.
It lets you touch.
You know what it reminds me of? Grimm.
Grimm?
Do you ever watch Grimm or read the Grimm books?
Oh wow, it's been forever, but no.
So
absolutely.
The idea is that it's like there are monsters in the world, and there are very few people that can actually see them for what they really are, and it's like an inherited trait. And so this guy grew up in a family of Grimms. He didn't he didn't actually start to express these powers till he was like a grown man. And like his aunt like shows up like, holy shit, like I gotta like overnight teach you how to deal with this, ends up dying, and now he's got like this rickety old trailer full of like ancient tomes of all this information about monsters. Meanwhile, he's like cop in like Seattle walking around, and there's like werewolves walking around like picking up newspapers, and they know what he is on site, and he knows what they are on site. But like regular folk are like, what's going on here? And that's
What's
like
up?
the plot of the show.
This guy,
Yeah,
you
that's
know.
cool.
Yeah. I'll say this about this build. The idea that it's not just a bulky barbarian hacking and slashing at something. The idea that you've studied these creatures so much that you know exactly where to get them. You know that little spot in the armor to get your dagger through to be able to really do something. That speaks more to me than the big brutish hack and slasher, you know, using your intelligence modifier as your bonus instead of strength or
which is
dex, you know.
super
That's
cool.
super. It's just interesting to be able to be a fighter type, but using your intelligence modifier.
Yeah,
it's fun.
so neat.
Yeah.
It's super fun. I agree. Like again, I agree with Lauren. The Carver and the occultist are the weaker parts of this, the weaker guilds, for subclasses and things like that. But the idea that as a reaction, when a monster goes to strike, because you know their patterns, you know what they are. As a reaction, you can get in there and take a swipe before they get their attack off.
Mm-hmm.
That's
I've
super
studied
interesting.
his pattern, so he's gonna go left, left, right, down, up. I'm just gonna go
Ah, you've been playing Dark Souls. Okay.
Yeah.
Right? But I would 100% play a character like that and just have the Sid the Slosh the whole time and be a total nerd about it and just be great. It's awesome.
But deadly.
Oh, yeah.
Duck season.
Wow,
All right, friends, we killed the big bad guy. What are you doing? Taking out his heart. Oh my God, stop.
Do you want some? There's more
It's
for everybody.
delicious, good for the heart.
This creature has 2 hearts. I can make 2 of them.
You're gonna play like a chipmunk folk or something really cute and cuddly. So it's like, oh God.
Oh, horrifying.
Cheek pouch.
Yes.
That'll fit right in
Yes.
with Grim Hollow. It's fine.
The other thing that I think the reason I was like Devourer Guild and Trapper Guild, yay. The other 2, I have DM'd for Rangers.
Yeah,
I've been Rangers.
sure.
One of the hardest parts, and the Grimoire gets around some of this, but that idea of picking a favorite foe, of putting stuff in the Grimoire, does turn into a little bit of, will your DM be able to shoot that many monsters of that type at you to make things worth it?
Right.
The reason, and then this goes back to once again with the Devourer and the Trapper, you don't have to attack creatures that are in your grimoire to get your benefits from it.
Right.
You can do all of the Devourer and all the
To
Trapper
everything.
stuff. And you maybe get some bonuses, or things are a little easier if it's
Yeah.
part of your grimoire.
Sure.
But otherwise you still can do stuff. Because like my ranger in my podcast game, they picked dragon.
Of course.
They were level 1
course.
character, Beastmaster Ranger, to pick dragon as their favorite foe. And I went, all right, we need to have a talk. I'm going to do a few homebrew things with you and your
Well,
bear and,
but-
and
but-
all these things.
But let's be honest. Who's gonna pick aberrations? Who's gonna do it?
It depends on the campaign setting.
Depends on the campaign. Like there are definitely monster types that just in general, I think more people would gravitate towards without
Sure.
knowing anything about the campaign.
Sure.
Yeah.
But then knowing about the campaign, like I'm not going to pick giant unless you're running Storm King's Thunder. I'm not going to pick ooze because I'm not. I'm not going to pick plant, but if you're running Descent into Avernus, fiend,
Yeah.
picking a fiend.
Well,
I'm not picking dragon unless we're doing a high level campaign.
But, you
I'm
know-
not,
Right.
say
The one with the grimoire, we can't get the benefits unless they're fighting that same monster over and over again. Like we see that kind of like that bottleneck in regular
yeah.
player's manual Dungeons and Dragons. The
Sure.
Wild Magic Sorcerer, people are like, oh, it's so crazy and wild. First of all, there's only 50 things on that list. All right. Second of all,
But if you have that little blue book
the
from Jim Hammer,
DM needs to be so on board with that class,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
nothing happens.
yeah,
Yep.
People are like, it's so good. Only if your DM is letting you roll constantly,
Yeah.
forcing
Yep.
you to roll constantly.
Yep.
Otherwise, you don't like the whole cycle for that character is built around like I do the wild magic surge, I get my advantage back, I do the advantage, I do the wild magic surge,
Yeah.
and round we go.
Yep.
But if the DM's not totally on board in that, forcing you to do that, you're reliant on natural ones. That's a 1 in 20 chance every time you roll.
yeah.
That's like having an entire your main class feature, your entire class built around you critting. That's what we're talking about. And I think that is just as bottlenecky as this. So I don't
Well-
see it all that different than what we're getting right out of the base game, you know?
Well, but let's
You're
be
definitely not wrong, but once again, I think that's why the Devourer and the Trapper stand out to me, because you
Sure.
don't have it's a subclass that does not need all of those bottlenecks. So like the bottlenecks of your grimoire are a little less, they happen a little less often. But you're totally right about that. I mean, it doesn't even have to be something so big as, you know, the wild magic of your wild magic sorcerer never rolling on that. You know, if you're playing a moon druid, but your DM is only allowing you to wild shape into beasts that you see and
Seen
study,
before.
Yeah.
Yep.
yeah,
and then you don't see any beasts.
yeah.
You
Right.
know,
Everything's
like
monstrosity, everything. Yeah.
Every player is kind of hamstrung by what their DM gives them. You know, regardless of class. I mean, unless you're playing like the core classes, if your DM isn't playing for you or isn't running a game for you, it's not that fun to play those classes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But it happens.
It does happen.
Yeah.
It can happen. Yes.
Yeah, but you know, and that's another thing to. We were talking about this with the safety tools, but like this is just a more mechanical part of that whole talk to your DM, talk to your other players.
Yeah.
Because yeah, okay, so if I'm gonna run the Devourer, and I've picked my grimoire characters and everything, not every single thing that we're gonna encounter is gonna be something that I can engage with all the things in my subclass. But you know what? It might be something that's story related, or it might be something for someone else's subclass. So, you know, at least seeing that, oh, okay, this fight, I'm still going to be useful and this is still going to be fun, but this is a whole bunch of undead and our cleric just got turned undead. This
Yeah.
is their time to shine, you know, but having that discussion with your DM and then, you know, continuing that discussion if like, you know, you're several sessions in and you haven't fought a dragon and
Right.
your grimoire is dragon based, and then you can have that discussion and go, are we actually going to
Right.
see dragons?
Are we gonna see any dragons? I think most people would probably look at their grimoire and they would see, okay, well, you get 2 at first level. Beasts are always gonna be there because it lets you do more fun stuff. You're gonna see a ton of beasts. I don't know. I don't think I've been in a single campaign where I didn't fight at least one undead something. You know what I mean? So it's there are something. I mean, oozes. Oh gosh.
I mean,
I've had
it's
some.
the stereotypical.
Yeah.
monster, you know, for a
Yeah.
reason.
So there's the option like plants. Like, oh gosh, I wanna. White Cougar in the chat is amazing, and I completely want to somehow make a character that is Audrey 2. I want to do it in a one shot. I want that. Like, I can be Petey Piranha, you know, hopping around in a pot doing.
It's called shambling hordes, Randall. Like, don't overthink it.
Okay.
And then you've got a druid with you called Seymour.
Oh yeah. Oh, but the shambling horde's a bard because he sings all the time.
Or we go back to that wild magic sorcerer. They're a sorcerer who got turned into the potted plant and then never came out.
That's great.
Lauren? Can we do something? Can we just for a one shot, just for fun? Come on, baby.
All right.
You have
We
to go
hold
fight
on.
a dentist.
We actually we all have
Oh.
and we have to sing.
Hey, I'm
All
in.
right.
I'm in if y'all
All
are
right.
in.
So good.
All right, the Discord thread is still there, so we're gonna talk about this. All right, we're gonna move into part 3 because
yeah.
we're gonna wrap up the show talking about what I really want to talk about. We're all creators, so all four of us, we make things for the TTRPG community, be it in our homebrew, be it that's on drive-through, if you're producing products that you're selling at conventions or in online, things like that. Like, we've all made things to give back and to give to this community. So I'm going to ask 2 questions. First question I'm going to ask, of all the things that you've made for your tabletop games, for tabletop gaming in general, what is the one thing that you're most proud of? It could be a magic item that you gave one of your characters. It could be it could be the setting of one of your games. It could be a product that you sell. It could be whatever it is. I want to know, what, as a creator in the TTRPG community, what's the one thing that you look at and you're like, you know what? I'm damn proud of that. That was an awesome opportunity. That was an awesome experience. I'm glad I could give that out for people to play with and do something with. What's that one thing that makes you say, damn, yeah, that? What is it? I can go first if you guys want a minute to just kind of, go through your Rolodex of all your things. So, back in 2018, when I started doing the children's books, it was fun. It was lighthearted. I was looking for an opportunity to talk to my kids about what tabletop games are. And it was an excellent, fun, sing-songy, Dr. Seuss way to introduce little kids to what tabletop gaming is. It's fun. It's lighthearted. Little Game Masters has been my freaking pride and joy. I am so proud of this stupid thing. And it's I don't know what else to say, It's one of those fun things that I get to sit down and when I was like being able to play test with my own kids and have them tell me like what's wrong with these characters or how the game works, and being able to make it better. That did it for me. The fact that I made a whole game, as someone who like I said, like when I was 8 years old, 7 years old, started playing second edition, and to where I am now. So being able to offer that is by far and away, I'm over the moon that I've been able to do it and that it's here now. I've got a garage full of boxes to prove it. Order.
I already have one.
I know all 3 of you already have one. I know that. Talk about the people in chat. Come on.
You mean this right here? This beautiful, this lush box.
This is the thing that I'm most proud of. Oh, and by the way, to any of you in the chat that were backers or that have gone onto the website or anything like that and were sponsors for this product, I have this now. These are I have for sale, and I'll have them for sale in the next month. But I've got a couple of samples in. This is a little. That's 12 2D minis of the main characters that you got in the Little Game Masters set. So here's our little monster hunter. This is what she looks like. Little skinny minis, little 2D minis.
Dude, those look great.
Awesome.
See, here's the thing with these. Like, I wanted to do minis so bad. Because I it's just so fun and whatever. But I'm looking at, thinking about minis and thinking about, 3D printing a green blob or a gray blob that you have to paint. Kids don't have time for that. Parents don't want to have to spend money on that.
Sure.
Let's do something simple and easy. That's bright and colorful. And the kids know
easier to store.
Super easy to store. So I'm super thrilled. For those of you that were backers, these are going to be available here pretty quick. I love the cover on it. How it's just, I don't know if you can see it. It's just like the illustration is just it's just the little clear skinny mini. I don't know.
I'm excited for you, man. That's awesome.
That's fun. Anyway, so that's me. I'm over the moon about it. It's been something that I'm super proud of, and I can't wait for everyone to play it with their kids. or with in after school programs and things like that. It's perfect for stuff like that. All right, someone else talk, because you guys are all amazing creators too.
Oh, I got
Whoa.
one. So I am most proud of the corrupted logo for Wormwood Gaming. I twisted their logo to be this spoopy version for Halloween, for spooky time.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of my most proud things, because it evolved into the coffin vault becoming a thing, me selling that design to the company, which was another super big moment for me. It helped me buy my first vehicle that was just mine, it helped me adult, and it continued in like the corrupted logo in the coffin vault, but the corrupted logo specifically became a sort of a phenomena for my life. Really, it put me on the community map, and because I don't know a nerd that doesn't love Halloween or spooky stuff to some degree, and it drew the eye here, and it got me to interact, experience so many things, and find my foot into the spotlight of the community. Not for the spotlight, but for it's like, hey, I exist, I did this thing. And then it evolved, like I said, into the coffin vaults. And originally the coffin vault, all I did was I made a couple of them, and I was like, I handed them to the media department, and I was like, hey, I don't want anything for this. I did this for the people. Like this job and this community has been so good to me. I want to give back. And they were like, no, we're going to sell them for you. Like, no, no, you put all this work into this. No, we're going to sell them for you. They disappeared in under 5 seconds when it went live. And it was just 13 of them. It actually caused a glitch in the system, so there's actually 13 and a half of them. And each one on the back, and I say in half, and each one on the back has my artist's signature engraved on them, 1 of 13, the year and everything. And there's one of them that has an extra signature line that says, hey, there it is, that says, I forget which one it was. It was a specific wood and a specific number, but it's like 9.5, the oops, or whatever, or the flute, because
the oops
internet,
one.
They went so fast, they sold 1 unit twice somehow. So I had to make an extra one, and we did this little thing, and it was great. And then the next, and then like a week later, the company was like, why aren't these in our Halloween Kickstarter?
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah.
And then the year after that, Doug came up to me and was like, hey, this has been super popular. Like it's done really great for you. I got an artist commission off of everyone that sold the first time. And then the second time he bought the design from me. And everything has been just dominoes from there. And it's turned into like things on t-shirts. It's been a reoccurring theme every Halloween, which is my favorite time of year. It's just, it brings me such joy. Yeah, that's my answer.
There you go. There you
That's
go.
so cool to hear, because those vaults are gorgeous, and
They're awesome.
that design that you did is very, very cool. And
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad that
It's so
I'm glad
sleek
that Connor
too.
has
You always
the book
expect
and
like a
and Randall has the actual coffin vault, because I can't reach anything back there to be like,
Yeah.
look what I.
And like the designs evolved, since it's become part of Wormwood's thing and all that other stuff, and it looks just as good now, if not better, than it did before. But just being able to have put that into the world, and just kind of like, I didn't do this. They did it. They did it for me. Like the community did it, and I wanted nothing. I just was. And to have such an experience with that is just, I will never forget it. And it will forever be career and life changing thing. So,
That's awesome.
thank you.
Lauren, what's something that you've created for homebrew, for drive-through, for on D&D Beyond, whatever? What's the one thing that you're most proud of that you just like? I just take joy from this, like whatever it is.
So I'm gonna say two things
Okay.
because I can't decide between the two, and I'll preface all this by being like, I love that I was part of Little Game Masters. That was super cool. It's one of my first giant adventures I got to write, and I'm so happy that and thrilled that you even thought of me. The two things I'm going to mention, though, one is I wrote a subclass for my cleric that I was playing in Heroes of the Plains and Heroes of the Vale. That's the Phoenix subclass. That it was kind of the first crunchy bit of kit that I did, and paid for an editor and went through play testing and did all the stuff. And it's up on D&D Beyond for free. It's just one of the homebrew ones that are up there. And I created the subclass as an inspiration from things that had happened with my character. It literally was, here's the subclass that I kind of wish my character was. And getting a chance to then play that character as that subclass was super cool. But the moment that really got me, like the whole experience was really fun. And I love hearing people who say, oh, I got a chance to play this in my game and I had this and that experience. I got asked to run a one-shot in where everybody was going to play clerics because it's kind of my jam. I'm like, great, cool.
I love clerics.
What subclasses would you like to be? What do we want to do? They all wanted to do a serious one-shot, which for a charity game is kind of not the norm. Most of the time charity games are very much silly and ridiculous. They're like, we're going to go serious. We all want to be Phoenix clerics. And I was like, oh, well, there goes my heart. Okay.
Wow.
That's cool.
That's dope.
Yeah, running a one-shot for a bunch of my friends for a charity game where they're all playing my subclass.
That's
and
awesome.
Being able to like throw stuff at them specifically so they could use some of those abilities was super fun.
Masked elephant. Oops, all clerics.
Yeah. Listen, there are so you don't even have to go into. Yeah, I've run a couple Oops All Clerics. There's so many subclasses.
It's so fun though.
Fun.
Yeah.
The other
That's
one I'm going to
amazing.
mention real quick.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, I get a call from a friend, Jason Charles Miller, who says,
Yeah.
hey, I have a gig I need you to record because I am a professional oboist, even though there's not a lot of gigs. He's like, don't take this the wrong way. How boring can you play? I'm like, I'm an oboist. I can do whatever the heck you want. Had no idea what this thing was. All I know is that he was working with a group that was doing some kind of TTRPG thing, and he was putting together an album, and that one of the songs on the album, the way he explained it to me was, imagine a slightly more interesting version of The Girl from Ipanema if it was a really bad elevator cover. So like it needs to not be actually boring, but it needs to be just...
It needs to have the melody, but enough that you can ignore.
Yeah, it needs to be that side of cheese. Mm-hmm. And we went back and forth and everything, and like working with him is always a joy because we come from completely different music styles.
He's
like,
very
does not
rock
read
and
music.
roll, very...
Well, and very rock and roll. Everything that he composes is just, he just plays and he just composes, and it's great. But he doesn't read any music. I'm from the camp of, you put a piece of music down in front of me, a sheet music, and I can just read it down and play it because that's my training, but I don't compose. What are you talking about? So we collaborated on the thing, and I did a whole bunch of recordings, sent it off. Yay. Come to find out, it's the soundtrack for Gods of Metal Ragnarok, which is the TTRPG that came out, I think at this point, 2 years ago? It was a big Kickstarter. The Ivan Van Norman was one of the leads on it and everything.
I remember seeing that.
It's super cool. It's super fun.
No way, that's awesome.
So the whole gist of the game is it's a very over-the-top, think heavy metal, like the movie Heavy Metal.
Yeah, like Heavy Metal Magazine.
yeah, brutal legend, like you are a rock god in this world that you have magic and everything. You don't fail at anything that you do. You just have levels of awesomeness. But the whole thing is part of like this alternate universe, and where if you're not as awesome as you need to be, you get pulled back to the real world, which is called Mundania. So the album is, I think it's 12 tracks. 11 of those tracks are hardcore heavy metal backing tracks for you to be playing while you're playing this game. And Jason got all these amazing people who are just rock legends.
He's got Dragon
amazing
Force playing
guitarists.
on this or something.
Yeah, just these awesome people. And then track 12 is My Little Mundania song. And so literally it goes from 11
Oh
tracks of like,
no!
and then it's the elevator to Mundania.
That's
and
amazing.
it's Jason playing some really gentle guitar while I'm noodling above it. Which was also funny that I get to be the oboe performer on the heavy metal track.
That's amazing.
I love
The-
that.
That's awesome.
The moment
That's so great.
it's so much fun. And the moment that cemented it for me, I think it was 2 years ago, when the game came out, I happened to be at San Diego Comic-Con for something else, but they were debuting it there, and they were doing a live game of it. And Jason was there, and Ivan Van Norman, all these cool people. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna watch. So I'm sitting in the audience as they're getting ready to play, and Jason sees me and is like, "Oh, we should turn on the soundtrack." And they turned on my piece. And so at San Diego Comic-Con, here's this
Nice.
heavy metal rock and roll TTRPG about to go. Everybody in the audience is already in like, just ready to rock. And then they all got to listen to me play on the So yeah, that's I
Love it.
putting the
great.
two together.
It's
Thank you
so
for letting me
good.
say two things, but yeah,
That's
those,
great.
those will stand out as some of the two coolest moments of my life.
All right, Connor, you're getting the last word here.
Okay. It's gonna have to be this ridiculous book, which we just finished kickstarting.
Nice.
Rollick's Guide to Violence. It's out. There's a couple of like small things we got to do for some people, but like other than that, it's done. So we kickstarted this a couple years ago. Oh my gosh, it's like 4 years ago now. Time flew by. And like everything that could have went wrong with this project did. We had a bunch of people involved with it early on. There was like a bunch of contributing writers and artists early on, and we got to a point where none of them were involved anymore. We had a lot of hiccups along the way, and even to a point where like some people like turned in manuscripts that like just it was effectively nothing. So a lot of it turned into we had to sort of drum up half a book in a relatively short period of time to still be able to have the book we intended to make. And I think I'm responsible for that much of it.
Oh,
Like
wow.
most of the book.
Holy man.
And I also laid it out and illustrated a ton of it. So I'm like, oh, like part of me was like frustrated with it for a really long time. Like it was done and they were shipped and they were here. And I'm like looking at it like, yep, there you are. You, but like the more I read through it now and the more that I got feedback from people and the more that I've had time to just sort of like push it aside, like the more I like think back on it, and like some of the things that like stick out to me in here, and it's why I thought of it with Ghostfire's stuff is I'm playing a game now where one of the people is playing one of the classes in it, and I made I call it a brawler, and that's because I wanted to call it a Street Fighter, but didn't want to get sued.
Yeah.
But we did it anyway. The subclasses are Street Fighter and Mortal Combatant. And, like,
That's
and it was
amazing.
like, so they're monk subclasses, and we have subclasses for the traditional classes in here. But I was like, no, because I can't do enough with them. And I feel like I built a better monk. And the whole thing is predicated on the idea you don't have like key points, you generate something like key points by getting successful hits. So this whole class
Combos.
it's combos. It's
Fuck yes.
you
Sorry.
need to like everything in this class is it's easier for you to hit, but you only do a D4. So it's like, why is that good? Because you have combos, and so like uh
Oh
you hit a
man.
certain point and don't know the whole table off the top of my head, but like you get a combo chain going, and you can like there's a bunch of combo moves in here that you can like you make an unarmed strike against a creature, the creature takes an additional 1d12 slashing damage, and that's for 4 hits, and as you level up you get more attacks to be doing this, and you
Yeah.
get more additions to your combo score for your successful hits, to the point where you're basically doing like laser beams out of your hands. You're doing the Hadouken.
Hadouken!
Yeah.
Exactly. The other thing in here that like I'm absolutely in love with is like secret techniques. And that's not part of any class. This is like something sort of aside from feats, and it kind of takes the idea of a feat or the idea of a prestige class, which we also did prestige classes for 5e in here. But this is like a thing that you would be using downtime, or that you would be like side questing to train to get. But these are something akin to like 7th to 9th level spells for martial classes. They're not spells. They're
Ooh.
super powerful abilities. It's your 5-finger death punch, but they cost exhaustion.
Oh, okay.
And if you
Ooh.
know how exhaustion works,
That's yeah.
these can kill you
Yes.
by
Yeah.
using them too much.
Yeah.
And like the first thing that I was thinking about when I was trying to develop this was it's terrible. But in Naruto, Rock Lee has like this ability that like he unlocks all his power and whatever, but it's gonna kill him to do it. And I was like, and a number of people have said like, this is so cool, I want to die in a campaign this way, and that's when I knew I had something, because it
There
was
you go.
like
Yeah.
that's
I
it. Like
wanna-
that's
yeah.
the thing. Like it's such an investment to get, but it's
Mhm.
such a cool thing, and you can't just spam it. And like that's how we balanced it, is because when we
Yeah.
first showed it to people, they're like, Connor, you're gonna give a fighter the ability to do this with a knife, and I'm like, yeah, but
Yeah.
keep reading. Oh no! Yeah, yeah.
I love how it sounds
Dawn.
like this class snowballs in both directions. Like
Yeah.
Well,
it
the
snowballs in
CPTs
the
are part
positive.
of a class. It's like just something that people can spec into using like.
Oh.
So we have like rules for training additional skills, and actually that's
Yeah.
already in base 5e. We just took it a step further.
Yeah.
But so this is like we have rules for like you find someone that can teach you this technique, and you go through and you talk to them, and like we have like tables for like how you would be training to work towards that, and like if you run into problems with that, whatever. But then the ultimate result is like I'm just gonna pick one. 1000 cut slash. Your bladed weapon rapidly strikes the target with 1000 tiny cuts, and you make it daily attack
Paper
roll.
cuts.
But it's but you do 8d6 slashing damage, but then they need to make a Constitution saving throw, and then they start to lose 1d10 hit points at the start of every one of its round, because they have all these tiny little paper cuts all over
Right.
them.
Yeah.
Bleed
That's
damage.
cool.
Then
Bleed
they have
damage.
to make wisdom checks because they're covered in these tiny cuts all over themselves, and you need to do that to like start closing up some of these wounds, or else they're just going to bleed out. So it's like a better bleeding weapon, but again, this is costing your exhaustion. So you
Sure.
put
Wow.
all this investment into this thing that is devastating. Like
Wow.
like capstones aren't as strong as some of these.
Yeah.
And even then, that's like one of the not as strong one. There's one that's like you literally rip a hole in space time, and even then, that's like, but again, this kills you. So those
Right.
two things, the I was able to build a combo based class that feels good to play, and you don't feel punished, even though the whole thing is around getting hits, because the hits aren't really what you're after. It's about building up that combo to do these really cool abilities. And the other thing is, those like you get that right away, like with the brawler. Going back to the brawler, it's not that, oh well, when I get high enough then I can start it. No, you can do it provided you're getting the hits. It's just about it just gets easier to do it as you level up.
Yeah.
So those two things I'm really proud of in here. But the book generally is what I'm like.
Yeah,
Super
yeah, yeah.
like we did it.
Yeah.
Yay!
I love that you leaned into the idea of detrimental effects to doing something super cool. Because
Yeah.
like there's a little bit of that in the Phoenix Cleric subclass, in where the TLDR is you can cast resurrection spells without any of the material components, and the people that you bring back get some bonuses. They don't just come back at 1 hit point, but the cleric takes on the levels. You know how if you get resurrected, you get a -4 penalty to everything until you take a long rest, and that's a -3 and a -2. The cleric takes that on,
Oh.
even if it's revivify.
Wow.
You don't need to do. You don't have to have the giant diamond, and you can bring someone back and
You're
come
just
back with half
using
their
your
hit
own
points.
essence to get there.
Using your own fire to bring them on back.
Wow.
And
Yeesh.
one of these days, I want to play. I
Wow.
want to either run or play. I now kind of want to do it and then have someone playing your class with that 1,000 paper cuts thing. And going through like one of those meat grinder dungeons where usually you hear about, oh, 4 or 5 people have lost their characters and they've had to roll up new characters and everything. No, we got Phoenix Cleric, so everybody's gonna make it to the end and everybody's gonna be okay. But the Phoenix Cleric's gonna be at a -10 to all of their rolls. Like
Gosh.
that
God.
kind of.
Yeah.
We have all of the skills needed to complete this thing, but we do have a problem with, as we use up our assets, we'll start to run out. It's almost like
Yeah.
D&D Nuzlocke in a way. It's
Yeah.
you have all the right tools to complete the thing, but once they start dying, things start going downhill because all you have is
Yeah.
weaker options to replace it with.
Yep.
Wow.
And then you go Nova and you set off your 5-finger death punch and you take out the
Now
boss.
they're
Punch a hole in the fabric of
but even
reality.
before they die and the Phoenix Cleric starts to go down, you're running even just 3 levels of exhaustion. You're not dead yet, but you're doing terribly on all your rolls.
You're doing nothing.
Not
They're
doing
carrying you
anything.
around.
Yeah.
So you get half the party like half asleep. Just, I'm okay. I could do it. Let's just keep going. Yeah, I'm
That's
into
when you
that.
run a Phoenix Cleric and all you do is bring people back and greater restoration. Bring people back and like that's all I'm doing the rest of the time. Y'all are doing your 5-finger death punch and I'm just making sure you're not gonna die meanwhile.
Jeez.
Man.
Now, which of us is playing the plant person and which of us is playing the bar?
Oh no, I'm Audrey too, for sure.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't show this before, but I'm really proud of the
Oh, you get that? Yeah, that's the Hadoken for sure.
yeah.
That's super cool.
That's amazing. No, I am without a doubt. I am Audrey too. I cannot emphasize this enough.
Audrey too.
I was Audrey too in a performance in a high school performance of Little Shop of Horrors once.
Ooh.
I will do it again. I was
I mean,
I was both the voice and the puppeteer.
I mean,
Heck yeah.
all of you could be Audrey too, and then you could also be the
The
Street
Ronettes.
Fighters.
No,
Yeah.
like Ronette, Audrey too. So it's like we just sing in harmony.
Just put all of our third parties together. It's gonna be great. I'm here for
I'm
that
into it.
that game.
God, that sounds
all right.
great.
Folks, we have reached our time limit for this. This has been an absolute joy, if nothing else. One thing that I enjoy more than anything is just being able to sit down and just chill and shoot the shit with friends and just talk about things that we love and that we're passionate about, and just see that reaction and see the joy that we have interacting with one another. So this has been soul refreshing. This has been life giving. This has been enjoyable. So I want to thank the three of you so much for being here. Real quick, Connor, Bennett, and Lauren, take turns. Tell people where they can find you, what you're doing next, and what to look forward from you. Connor, go.
You can find all our stuff at www.jimhammer.com. I'm at Jim Hammer Gaming on Twitter. Go somebody else.
Bennett, go.
You can find me probably on Worm Life. You can also find me non-professionally on Etsy at Chris Phoenix Designs. I do stickers. I plan on doing a bunch of crafted D&D props that also are both physical and print items, kind of homebrewy fun things that I just want to do and make, and they'll be out there and available in the ether at some point. Other than that, you can find me here because I'll probably hang out with Randall more, and it was an absolute pleasure, and thank you.
Yeah. Lauren?
Hi, go to my website, lauren-urban.com. The front page has the few things that I'm excited about, plus links to my socials, because I just got tired of talking about Twitter, so I just put it on the front page of my website. Go there.
There you go.
Nailed
Thank
it.
you, everybody. This was absolutely lovely, and you are all amazing. And now I'm gonna go and use my my coffin dice box, and I'm gonna go buy some. I'm gonna go play a pugilist and a Street Fighter, and I'm gonna figure out how to make it work in that game right there.
Love it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're gonna talk about. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Randall Hampton. At Randall_Hampton, I'm basically everywhere you see me. You go over to RandallHamptonArt.com. Pick up your copy of Little Game Masters right now. Pick up your copy of The Frozen Tower, which is written by 3 of the people on this board right here. All wrote some of the adventures in there, and it's a lot of fun. And play with your kids, because kids like to play.
That's true. They do like to play.
They do like to play.
Just generally speaking.
Thank you guys again so much for being here tonight.
Thank you.
I cannot express it enough. This has been a joy for me. I wanted to do something like this for a long time, and I'm so glad that the 3 of you could kick it off for me. This has been a joy. Thank you so much for being here. Everyone that was here watching in the future, in the past, here with us live, thank you so much. Everyone, have a wonderful night. And we will all be... where's the end stream button?
Quick, everybody just wave.
Everybody just wave. Have a wonderful
Thanks,
night, everybody.
guys.